Well, hello everyone. I'm Texas Senator Angela Paxton, and I'd just really like to thank all of you with Texas Alliance for Life and Dr. Poyman for inviting me to be part of your April Leadership Circle Luncheon today. You know, everyone in this room has their own reason, their own story that leads you to be in this place, this very time today, to be part of this luncheon, to be part of the education and advocacy that Texas Alliance for Life stands for. And I'm no different. I have my own story. And I really enjoyed working with Dr. Poyman this session. Of course, my last session was my first session. We worked together on legislation with regard to life in that session as well. But we worked together very closely because I carried the Human Life Protection Act this session, Senate Bill 9. And I was thrilled to be part of this, not only because of Senate Bill 9, the Human Life Protection Act, but because as a result of efforts of groups like Texas Alliance for Life, this really has been one of the strongest pro-life sessions we've seen in years in the state of Texas. So I was really honored, I guess, to have the opportunity to work with Dr. Poyman on Senate Bill 9. I know that Dr. Poyman will probably talk a little bit more about the mechanics of this bill, but I'd like to describe just an overview of what it does. The Human Life Protection Act is taking into account where we are in history. As you all know, we are in the aftermath, the horrific wake of the Roe v. Wade decision many years ago, which we think about in terms of making abortion legal, but really what it did that by taking away the authority of the states to have their own laws with regard to abortion. And it made it a federal issue instead of a state issue. With the Human Life Protection Act, we are looking at the moment in history in which we live. And the fact that we now have a United States Supreme Court that has a strong pro-life base. And for the first time in decades, there is potential that the Roe v. Wade decision might actually be overturned. The Human Life Protection Act postures Texas for such a decision. And what it would do is, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, or to the extent that it might be reversed, that level of law on abortion would take effect in Texas basically immediately. The law is written that within 30 days that would become effective in Texas. And you might ask, well, why have legislation that's conditional like that? And it has to do with the way we do government in Texas. We meet as a legislature for 140 days every other year. So we're out of session more than we're in session. We can only make law when we're in session together in the legislature. So what this bill does is it postures us, should the Supreme Court act and overturn Roe v. Wade, and should that happen potentially when we are not in session, we wouldn't have to wait another 6 or 9 or 18 months for the legislature to return. And so this allows us as a state to be postured to start saving innocent life immediately should that happen. Now, why is that important to me? Because I have my story. My story is this. My life began on Valentine's Day of 1963, which sounds almost fairy tale-like. But the other side of the story is that my life began under circumstances that very well could have led to an abortion. My birth mother was a college student. She wasn't married, and this wasn't what she was expecting the rest of her life to look like. She had a crisis decision to make. My birth mother chose life for me. And because of that, I had the opportunity to be raised in a family with two loving parents. My mom and my dad were unable to conceive children, and so they adopted. They adopted me. 2 years later, they adopted my little brother. And I grew up with parents who were so diligent, and I think so deliberate, because they were really always very aware that they might not have been able to be parents at all. On my side of things, I grew up with the knowledge that I might not have had an opportunity to live, but I did. And I wanted to make the most of it. And I had parents who wanted to help me make the most of it. Because of them, because of the life my birth mother gave me, I got to be the first person in my family to graduate from college. I went on to become a teacher and a school counselor. I went on to become a mother of 4 children myself. And I have to tell you that one of the most moving moments in my entire life was when our first child was born. We were in the hospital, and I remember the nurse handing our son Tucker to me. And as I took this little baby in my arms and looked in his little face, I realized that this child was my birth relative, my blood relative. He's the first blood relative I'd ever met in my whole life, and I was 30 years old. But he wasn't the last. I had 3 more children. So we have a son and 3 daughters who've all grown up to be amazing people. And then as I worked through my career as a teacher and a school counselor, I had the opportunity to have an influence on hundreds and hundreds of children and their parents, to help them remember that life is precious, to tell every kid that I ever taught, you're not an accident. You're here on purpose. And there's a reason for your life, and it matters that you're here. You know, there's so much to this story. It is rich and deep. But my birth mother and my mom eventually met and actually became friends. And I got to see a beautiful moment when they met. As my birth mother kneeled down in front of my mom and gave her a dozen red roses and said, "Anita, thank you for giving Angela what I couldn't give her. Thank you for giving her a life." And we all cried, and then my mom said to Linda, "No, Linda, thank you for giving her what I couldn't give her. You gave her life." And I guess I'm here to say this to you. I will stand for life because I know it is a fundamental right that every single human being is meant to have. And yet, every single human being does not get. I know what it means in a very deep and profound way to realize that I might not have had this chance. And yet I did, because of other people's choices for me. And I want to thank you for the choices you make, that you are making, and that you will continue to make for life. So that this world is going to be full of little girls like me, little boys who get their chance, who have an opportunity not just to make a difference in the world with their purpose, but get to make a difference in other people's lives and impact that exponentially. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being part of Texas Alliance for Life. And thank you for everything you do so that every single baby from conception on has their chance to make a difference. God bless you. Have a great day.